Yo, what's good, YouTube? Scoot here, back with the NNDL. We've got Season 8, and we've got our semifinals match against the RB Leipzig Goons, coached by Ryan. He's had a fantastic season. We've actually played once in the regular season, like all other coaches. We all play once during the regular season, so all playoff matches are a rematch. And so our first playoff match was an immediate rematch to our Week 13 match. This one falls back a little bit further to, I think, Week 11. Both of us obviously had the same squads. No trades were allowed after the fact, past Week 11, or I'm not sure what week it was, but it was way before Week 11. And Ryan won last time. His Mew was very problematic. But I felt like in that match, if I just had a few tweaks to my team, that Mew wouldn't have been an issue, and everything else pretty much was a non-issue anyway. Outside of obviously the Raikou and the Mega Aggron being problematic for me. So this time he chooses to bring a little bit different of a squad. He doesn't bring the Azumarill, no Dragapult. Instead brings the Meganium and the Arcanine, as well as the Gliscor. He didn't bring the Gliscor last time, and I thought it would come. I thought he would bring the Arcanine. He didn't bring the Regigigas, so I thought the Regigigas would come over the Meganium. However, I can understand why it would come, perhaps for my Suicune specifically. And it really doesn't match up well outside of versus my Suicune, as I have Mandibuzz, Nidoqueen, and Fernape. But yeah, so I've got a Alakazam, pretty similar set to my last set. I did debate for a long time, but I ultimately decided he wouldn't bring the Dragapult in the second match. I didn't think he would bring it in the first time, and as much as it did in the last match, I don't think it's going to come at all in this match. So I was going to run a pretty cool Alakazam set with sub-disable so that I could potentially not get Sucker Punched and from the Dragapult, and so that I could disable Sucker Punch so that Sucker Punch doesn't infiltrate my sub and break my sub and kill me anyway. So I wouldn't have had Focus Blast for Mega Aggron if I stuck with that Alakazam set. And like I said, I didn't think he was going to bring the Dragapult, so I didn't think that it was necessary anyway. So I've got Psychic, Focus Blast, and Shadow Ball on my Alakazam. Hits his entire team for neutral or super effective damage. And I have Sub. I think I did keep Sub on here. I may have changed it to Taunt last minute, but I do think I left it as Sub so that I could sub up on potential switches and potentially a Mew that only has Psychic, or perhaps another Taunt or Toxic variant. It was very problematic last time. I don't know if he'll bring the same set this time. Let's see here. I've got a pretty similar Infernape to my last set. Last time I didn't reveal my set. I had a Life Orb Nasty Plot set with Fire Blast, Focus Blast, and Grass Knot. And I did not get to reveal that. I ended up sacking my Fernape in our last match. And in this match, I decided to bring a Life Orb variant as well with Fake Out, U-Turn, Fire Blast, and Focus Blast. I didn't see the Azumarill coming, and I felt like with Fire Blast and Focus Blast, I had pretty good coverage versus his entire team, as long as I can land. And with Life Orb, Fire Blast pretty much 2-hit KOs everything on his team except the Arcanine, obviously, and the Azumarill. But looking at matchup here, Infernape really does go in once Raikou's eliminated. It's the only thing on his team that outpaces without boosting. So Infernape could look really good in this match. Nidoqueen, I thought about going with a Choice Scarf variant to try to catch a few things off guard, and I noticed in our last match in the end game that Nidoqueen, if it was a Choice Scarf variant, could have did really well with late game Earth Power. And in this match, it looks like if I get rid of Gliscor, it looks good again. Mandibuzz last time was a little bit annoying for me. I wish I had Knockoff last time we played, and I wish I had U-Turn last time we played. So there was a lot of times where I come in with my Mandibuzz and we're forced out or taunted by the Mew, And this time I can just come in with my Mana Buzz, click U-turn, not worry about a taunt, not worry about a toxic, get pretty good damage off, and U-turn into my Alakazam. It is a slow U-turn, so I will take damage before, and then I will U-turn out, bring in my Alakazam freshly, and hopefully have the rest of his team in positions to where Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Focus Blast do the work. Suicune, I thought about a curse set with Waterfall and Extreme Speed to weaken his squad, or once his squad gets weakened, I could curse up with my Suicune and then pretty much eliminate threat after threat with Waterfall and Extreme Speed. Obviously, I'm carrying Toxic Spikes on my Nidoqueen, so that's going to be good for wearing things down like the Meganium that would otherwise tank Waterfalls and Extreme Speeds and the Mew. But I ultimately decided I was going to bring a Mirror Coat variant with Roar to potentially get rid of Azumarill if he did bring it again, because I noticed that Belly Drum could be an issue if he could find a position to set up. It's scary though, because my Mana Buzz always outpaces and can get a huge foul play off even if it is a fairy type. After a Belly Drum, it's pretty powerful. Clefable, I think I kept my Unaware set. I could have changed to Magic Guard, but like I said, just because he fared well in our last game doesn't mean he's going to bring the same exact sets, and doesn't mean that I need to specify my team or mold my team to better combat the team that he brought the first time. This is a whole new match, so just going by that logic wouldn't work. But yeah, that's going to be team preview. We're going to hop into the replay now and see what goes on here. So I'm going to actually lead with my Suicune. So the reason I led with my Suicune is I thought he might lead with the Gliscor, and I didn't want him to. I could switch into Raikou better than I can switch into Gliscor. So I'm going to immediately go into my Nidoqueen as he goes. And I thought about clicking Mirror Coat here, but the potential for him to Volt Switch out into Mew or Gliscor and then recover up the damage that he would be doing wasn't worth the Mirror Coat. So I ultimately decided I would go into my Nidoqueen here. He is on a balloon. He may not want the balloon popped, so he may switch out here. And I'm EV'd to take, to not be 2-hit KO'd by Extra Sensory or Scald, unless there's a Scald burn, in which I will be 2-hit KO'd because of the burn. And yeah, I'm just going to click Toxic Spikes here, expecting my opponent to want to either switch out or go for an Extra Sensory or a Scald. I'm going to opt to get a layer of Toxic Spikes up, and the reason being is because once I get these Toxic Spikes up, it can potentially beat down on the Mew, the Meganium, and the Arcanine, as well as the Raikou later in the game if the balloon is popped. So had I got my Toxic Spikes up here and not been crit, as you can see, he does get a crit here. He does 62% or something like that. It should not have done anywhere near that amount, and now I'm in range of another Extra Sensory. I do have my Toxic Spikes up, which is really nice, but had I not been crit, it would have been a lot better, because I could pop the balloon on the following turn. On this turn, I could pop the balloon, which would probably do anywhere between like 30 to 40% potentially. I do have offensive investment on my Nidoqueen as well, because I wanted to obviously weaken things like the Mew and the Gliscor. So I do have a little bit of offensive investment. I am rocking the Sugar Berry as well for the Gliscor. Once again, similar to our first match. But the problem here is that I can't stay in, or I just lose my Nidoqueen all around. Perhaps it would have been best to just lose my Nidoqueen, but seeing that it could outpace the Aggron, potentially outpace the Meganium, and get good damage off on it as well, I did want to keep my Nidoqueen around. But my series of plays, had Nidoqueen not been crit, would have been I take the Extra Sensory, get my Toxic Spikes up, I take the next Extra Sensory, and I break the balloon and get valuable damage off. And then on the following Extra Sensory, which he has to go for to knock me out, I could hard switch into my Alakazam, take negligible damage, and then fire off a Psychic, or perhaps 2 Psychics to knock him out. But he may be in range of just one modest Alakazam Psychic after my Nidoqueen was to get damage off. But alas, I do not get damage off because I am forced to switch out. I go into my Clefable, take negligible damage from the extra Sensory. I'm going to get my Stealth Rocks up here as my opponent decides to Volt Switch out. He goes out into his Mega Aggron. All reliable. Takes 21% actually from Moonblast, which is crazy thinking it, Mega Aggron takes no damage. But, excuse me, I did not get my rocks up. Actually, I went straight for the Moonblast, I guess to break the balloon. And then I went for the rocks, predicting his Aggron not to attack. And here, he predicts my Suicune to come in and makes a really solid double play into his Raikou. And right here, I almost clicked Mirror Coat, and I would have survived with my Suicune, and I would have knocked out that Raikou right there, and it would have just been so much easier for me. Unfortunately, the Raikou with the crit, it's going to end up removing my Nidoqueen, my Clefable, and you're going to see some more here. I go into my Life Orb Infernape here. I am potentially in range of Extra Sensory, but it's a pretty good in my favor, but I do get flinched, and then I get critical hit there on the Thunderbolt. So it's just insane here. He goes for the Thunderbolt once again. I'm just trying to get damage off, put this thing in Alakazam range. As he goes for the Thunderbolt, gets another crit. So he's crit me like 4 times. He's flinched me once, and I just can't get past this Raikou. It's very problematic. I really wish I'd clicked Mirror Coat on the turn he went for the Thunderbolt that I switched into my Nidoqueen. I would have removed the Raikou from the game, and Suicune didn't serve that much of a purpose at that point anyway, outside of switching into Arcanine, which the rest of my team could have dealt with offensively and defensively. But here he's going to go into his Meganium. So Meganium's getting some shine here. I think that's the shiny one. I'm not sure. I don't really know what it looks like. Petal Blizzard is actually a 90 base power physical attack, which is pretty cool. So he didn't want to be like Calm Mind stalled or like PP stalled from Suicune. So he brought the Petal Blizzard, hits on the physical side. Bar Scald Burns. So bringing Toxic Spikes, he probably knew he wouldn't get Scald Burn. And Toxic Spikes is a really good set versus him anyway. Anyways, my Ice Beam doesn't do enough. Scald doesn't do enough. And he's pretty much going to be able to survive those hits. He's going to go into his Meganium here. I almost clicked Ice Beam right there. I'm not sure if it would have killed. Obviously, Meganium's fat, Suicune's weak without boost. But it was something I thought about going for there, and had I got it knocked out, it would have been, or had I at least got that damage off, it would have been in range of that U-turn right there, which would prevented it from synthesizing up. And then I go into my Alakazam here, thinking it's probably in range of a modest Psychic, and this thing's actually fatter than fuck. Survives. One-shots my Alakazam with the Petal Blizzard. And then my Mandibuzz comes in. Had this thing got, or it was faster and had like Rock Slide or Stone Edge or something, it would have probably swept me. But yeah, that's not going to be the case. We're going to be able to go into our Mandibuzz here. We try to click the taunt. He taunts us, and of course that's going to be the game. We're going to forfeit. There's no need to wait for him to Toxic me and then wait for all the Toxic turns to go by or whatever he was going to do. So I didn't get to see the Mew again. Arcanine showed probably be probably an offensive variant. It just clicked Flare Blitz and then swapped out, so I'm not real sure. The Aggron, probably just a rock setter. But yeah, we're going to lose 4-1. It turns into a 4-0, I believe. And Gliscor probably gets a KO on the Mandibuzz there, I'm sure. But yeah, it's going to be semifinals. Not a very great match. Fantastic prep on both sides, I assume. I think the Balloon Raikou is really problematic as a lead. I didn't account for that as a lead. And I probably should have broken its balloon. But I feel like had I not been crit, on turn one the game would have went entirely different. Obviously, my Niddle Queen wouldn't have been a sack. I wouldn't have lost my Clefable trying to save my Niddle Queen. I wouldn't have lost my Infernape to a flinch then a crit. I wouldn't have lost my Mana Buzz almost to a crit. A lot of things would have went differently there. The only play I regret is the play that I switched into my Niddle Queen on the Thunderbolt when I could have clicked Mirror Coat finally to catch that Raikou off guard. I should have did it because he had revealed Volt Switch already. I should have stayed in and clicked Mirror Coat, and I would have taken the damage. I would have taken like 60-70%, and I would have returned fire, and it would have dropped the Raikou immediately. I think I would have been up at that point, 6-5, and we would have went from there. My Niddle Queen would be at, my Niddle Queen would have still got crit and would be at 38%, would be still viable against the Arcanine and the Aggron. So there's a play that I could have made that could have got me back into this game. I didn't make the play, but obviously without the crit, I might not have ever had to make that play to begin with. Tough game for sure. But yeah, Ryan's going to be going to the finals. He's going to be facing off against Brother Options. So two of the top 4 teams in the league. I think they both finished at 2 and 4 respectively. And Brother was pretty much number 1 all season. Ryan had a pretty good undefeated streak going on there. So it's going to be a pretty hot finals.